As a salon or spa owner, cosmetology school gave you the skills to serve clients, but it definitely didn't teach you how to run a business. Somewhere along the way, you probably thought ownership would mean freedom, but instead you're working more hours than ever, barely paying yourself, and low-key worried everything's going to fall apart the second you step away. Welcome to the Beauty Biz Breakdown, where we give you the real strategies, systems, and structure that you need to fully step into the CEO seat in your beauty business. Hey friends, welcome back to the Beauty Biz Breakdown, the go-to podcast for salon and spa owners who are ready to build a more profitable, more predictable beauty business. I'm Brie, and as always, I've got Chandra here with me. Hey girl.
Hello, hello.
How are you?
Doing good. Just, life, getting these children back to school and, dealing with all the fun stuff. And it's raining here again. I think last week I was saying that we were having some crazy storms. We've just been, I don't know. I thought I lived in the desert, but I feel like I live in a tropical place now.
Well, like I said, the weather has been crazy. It's been very, very weird in Texas too. So we're just rolling with it around here. That's all we can do. Awesome. Well, hopefully those kiddos get in school and have a great year. That's what we're
I
hoping
hope
for.
so. Yeah, that's crazy. Every year you forget how much craziness happens trying to get them back, and then they get back and you're like, okay, it's just, one of those things.
It's kind of nice though, I think, when they're in school because you're on more of a schedule. That's what my daughter and I were talking about yesterday evening. I was like, it's kind of nice because there's just scheduling, which I love organization and scheduling. So for me, that is the way to go. So I think it's kind of a good thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's much more regimented and everybody's much happier that way.
Agreed 100%. All right, well, let's get into it today. We are going to be talking about business and personal money because this is something that I'm seeing everywhere. And I know that we've discussed it before, but we got to talk about it again because it's just all over the place. I just think it's an important topic. So if you're out there and your business and your personal money have been in a relationship for a little too long, today's episode is going to be more of an intervention for you. We're going to break them up for good. Guys, this is something you have to do. There's going to be no more mixing them, no more anything, no more back and forth crap. It has got to be done. You have to get it done. And I already know what some of you out there are going to be thinking, Bree, but it's just me. I made the money. It's my business. I am the business. What's the big deal? Well, we're going to answer that for you. And then we're going to dig into why this one habit could be quietly wrecking your ability to know if your business is actually making any money at all. So let's answer that question about why, if it's just you, does it matter? Because I think Chandra and I hear this constantly from people. So even if you're a solo owner, this doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have 0 employees. The business still has its own income. It has its own bills. It has its own expenses. And hopefully it has its own profit. Those are the things you have to think about. When all of that is mixed in with your personal finances, you can't clearly see what is happening inside of your business at all. And that's true, like I said, whether you're solo, honestly, whether you have 2 employees or whether you have a team of 80. The number of chairs doesn't really change the problem at all. It's kind of wild what Chandra and I see sometimes when we start digging into the finances of salon and spa owners. We have seen some pretty crazy stuff. There's times where we can be on a strategy call and see the business account paying for things like groceries and the personal account paying for things like salon supplies, the business account covering a car payment maybe, and the personal credit card paying for team education. We've literally watched an owner transfer money from the business into their personal account because the mortgage was due, and then transfer it right back into the business a few days later because now they have to order retail. Like the money is basically playing ping pong between these accounts, except nobody is keeping score of who's losing. And that's the big problem. When we start asking questions about those transactions, you can tell that the owner doesn't feel like any of them were a big deal when they happened. The owner just kind of uses whichever card was already in her hand or whichever account had enough money in it at the time. And I think a lot of you guys tell yourself, I know what that charge was for, and I'll just go in and clean it up later. But later never comes. And this is where your CPA and your business coach, they start seeing things, right? 4 months go by, you're staring at both of your accounts, and now you're asking yourself, where in the heck did all of my money go? because there should be some in here. Chandra, how often do we see this?
All the time. I feel like no matter what side you're on, whether you're a commission salon owner or you're a renter and you're just in business for yourself, I feel like almost everybody that we've ever worked with to some degree has been doing this, even if it's not major, a little bit, And so I think it's definitely it's again, it kinda goes with what we always say, like, we're never, as stylists or service providers, given any sort of business training, and so we're just kind of running it like we would run, just ourselves behind the chair, and so I think it's definitely something that a lot of people just don't even understand.
Yeah, I would agree with that. When I was thinking about this for today's topic, I was thinking about the junk drawer that I have in my kitchen. And I know almost every household has one of those. Mine has like birthday candles, 3 pins that probably don't work, rubber bands, random batteries, and maybe some candy that's probably older than, I want to admit. But half the stuff in there probably needs to be thrown away. Like it should be completely thrown away. But I keep adding to it because dealing with it doesn't feel like something I wanna do, like it's just too much for me to handle, and I know that sounds stupid with a junk drawer, but I think this is exactly what happens when you mix your business and personal money. You kinda create one giant financial junk drawer filled with business bills, personal bills, random transfers, subscriptions, and who knows what else. And one of the things that I think we see a lot are things like Amazon, Chandra, because that is like those expenses that can be really, really hard to keep up with if you're mixing things. Half of you out there probably could not tell us whether the Amazon order that showed up last week was retail for your salon or a candle for your living room. This is why it becomes such a big deal. It's a big problem. It's all so thrown together, and then you get stuck digging through the mess, trying to find the information that you need to make real business decisions because as a business owner, that's what you have to do. It's no different than searching through a junk drawer for a matching Tupperware lid or something of that nature. And here's where it kind of starts affecting the decisions that you make. Let's say your business account looks like it has plenty of money in it. So you pull maybe some out for something personal without realizing that part of the balance already belongs to something: payroll, rent, taxes, maybe a bill that hasn't cleared yet. Then those expenses hit that account, but the money's gone. And you're sitting there wondering, how am I going to cover this overdraft fee? And why do I have one to begin with? Chandra, when people are doing things like this, how often do you think they really don't realize how big of a deal one small transaction can actually knock everything off the grid?
Yeah, I think that they don't think it's a big deal at all, and I think that, I mean, I've been guilty of it in the past too, and it's like you're living in the moment, right? So it's like, "This is due, I need to buy this, I have money here, I'm just gonna buy it." Like, you're not even thinking farther ahead as to what that means. Maybe you don't even have the money to buy those things right now or, something like that, but we just think, Well, I need this, I'm gonna do this." We're just living in that moment, in that exact time, instead of thinking about the future of our business or even our personal, finances.
Yeah, and I think that's what people always think, that it happens kind of the way that we're talking about. Like people take personal money out of the business. But it can also be the opposite way too. Chandra, I really believe this is one of the biggest reasons so many beauty professionals hate looking at their finances. You know what I mean? Because when you don't trust the numbers that are in front of you, looking at them feels completely pointless and somewhat intimidating, to be honest. So what do? You just want to avoid them, or you decide that the answer must be bringing in more money. So you just start working your butt off more and more and more. This is something that we see people do. Hate to be the bearer of bad news for everybody out there, but adding more revenue to the same financial junk drawer is only going to give you a bigger pile of money that you're going to lose track of. Chandra, when we first actually start looking into the owner's finances, what usually tells you that their business and personal money are way more mixed than what they even realize?
Well, I mean, I think just going through the expenses and really seeing where that money is going, and then you start to realize, is this a salon expense? And they're like, "Oh no, I was at Costco and I had to buy like groceries," and you start going through that, and it's like you don't realize how much that's affecting your business again, because when in our industry, it's like money's just coming in, coming in, coming in, coming in. And so you feel like, "Oh, I have money again. I can go buy this." And, "Oh, I have money again." And you muddy up that line so much that you don't even know how much money you're spending out of that business that's maybe not business, or vice versa. Like you said, like I was always guilty more putting money in to the business more than taking it out personally, and just keeping it going that way for a long time and not realizing how the business wasn't even sustainable for a while because I just kept floating it personally until like I run out of money. And then it's like now you have to actually, separate that line and clean out your junk drawer and take care of that stuff. And that's when it gets really, really hard for people is trying to decipher what those different expenses actually really need to be.
Yeah, we definitely see both sides of the equation. And I think another issue that we see where this really makes a big difference is when it comes to owner pay. We see a lot of people, come into our coaching program that just pull money out whenever they feel like they need to be paid. Guys, that's something you can't do whether you are solo, a commission owner. I don't care what you are, you can't do it. You have to have an actual owner pay process that is set up correctly for the way your CPA has structured your business. This is important. For some of you, that's going to be, on payroll as like a W 2. For others, it may be a draw or distributions or whatever your CPA kind of tells you to do. We aren't really here to tell you which method is going to apply to you because that's your job and your CPA's job. But what you do need to know is it's important to have a structure for your payroll. I can tell you this, whatever is left over and whatever I can grab this week, that's not a legitimate payment method at all. Think about how insane that would sound. If we were talking about an employee that you had, you would never tell somebody on your team, just look at the bank account and take whatever you need and whatever you want this week. No, you have a pay process for your employees because the business needs to know when payroll is coming and how much it has to cover. But owners out there will take 500 one week, they'll skip paying themselves for 2 weeks and then pull out $4,000 because once again their mortgage is due or something. Your personal bills are deciding how much money leaves the business instead of the business telling you what it can actually afford to pay you. That is how your personal life ends up treating the salon like a backup ATM, and it is not a smart way to run your business. Chandra, do you think some owners call that paying themselves because it sounds better than admitting that they just really don't have a process at all?
Yeah. I think that, and I mean, they're probably working crazy hours, bringing in tons of money and leaving that money in the business most of the time. So I feel like sometimes they also feel entitled to take whatever they can whenever they can because they feel like they've been putting all of this in. And, to some degree that's kind of true, but at the same time, again, that's just going to muddy those lines and your business is probably struggling and you more than you even know.
Absolutely. And I think a much bigger issue that comes on later on is, you know, you have to prove your income for things. Maybe you want to buy a house, finance a car, apply for a personal loan, whatever it is. Somebody is going to look at what you actually pay yourself, whether that income is consistent and whether it makes sense on paper. We are the worst in the beauty industry about this. They're not going to listen to a 20-minute explanation about the personal bills that you paid through your business, the cash you took home, or all the extra transfers you made whenever you needed something. That's not how it works. We have watched very talented, successful beauty professionals lose out on things like homes and cars and things of that nature that they could actually afford because their income was just this messy document. Can you imagine building a successful business, making really good money, finding the dream house that you've always wanted, and then discovering that you can't prove what you earn? That's a really crappy time to find out that your owner pay process was not working. You've got to get that in order. Chandra, what would you tell an owner who thinks the revenue their business brings in should be enough to prove what they personally make or take from the business?
I mean, if you don't have a clear pay process, so like if you're not taking a paycheck, if you're not taking a draw, if you don't have some sort of clear pay process, then I mean, there's nothing you can prove. And I mean, even whether you own a business with employees or it's just you yourself, I would say it's almost even worse when it's just you yourself because most of the time they don't even have any sort of pay process. And so those are a lot of times are the ones that you see and they're shocked. I mean, they're, like, surprised because 'cause they're like, "Well, I make, $100,000 a year." But yeah, you can't qualify for anything if you don't have some sort of tax document that shows what you make.
Right. You're absolutely right about that. And this brings us back to like the big conversation that's kind of happening in the beauty industry right now. Like they're trying to take money away, federal money away from schools and things of that nature because we are now considered like the training programs or whatever it is. And we don't make enough within the first year. But a lot of times we don't make enough because we aren't showing that we make anything. And so it's just this circle jerk all the way around, and it's causing major, major issues for our industry. So it's time for us to buck up and start doing things the legitimate way. I think there's one more problem that things like this can create inside the business itself, and it's really your profit and loss statement because that's supposed to be there to help you make smart business decisions. It should help you determine whether you can afford to hire, increase expenses, add a service, replace equipment, maybe make a big move for your business. But if personal groceries are showing up in those expenses, legitimate business expenses are missing, and the way you've been paying yourself isn't documented correctly, that profit number on that report could be completely wrong. And that means your profit and loss statement is basically like decoration. It's just sitting there to look good. You may be pulling it up every month, but you can't use it to make a dependable decision because the information that is going into it is a hot mess. You need to report what it actually cost the business to run and what is left after every single business expense is paid. Otherwise, you're going to be guessing all the time, except now when you're doing things wrong, the guessing is happening while you're sitting there staring at the freaking spreadsheet. And that is a cluster to look at. Chandra, once an owner finally has an accurate profit and loss statement, this is one of my favorite things to see when we're coaching salon and spa owners. What does that allow them to do differently inside of their business?
I think it gives them so many more opportunities. Like they finally understand maybe what areas their business needs to be improved, or they finally can take actual real money because they realize once, as the owner, you might be taking less money for a little while and you might be looking at that profit and loss. But if you don't muddy those lines, then you can actually have a clear picture of what your business is doing. And then you can start increasing your pay. And that's where I think people don't understand all the time when we start looking at those profit and losses and we start getting their expenses under control and they start using our methods and they see that they actually, I mean, there's so many times now when, the owners that we coach are like, I actually have this money in my bank account that the profit and loss says I'm supposed to have. And before, it might say you have money, but you didn't have any money at all. And you're like, how does this even work? And so it's amazing to see that. And then it's like, okay, cool. Now you can take a bigger draw, or now you can increase your pay, or now you can do that remodel you want to do, or buy this, or, hire more people, whatever that looks like. But if you don't have that accurate snapshot, you don't even know what you can do. And so that just gives them that freedom and that opportunity.
Yeah, it's absolutely your compass for everything. And I love when we are on like one-on-one calls with some of our members and they're like, you know what? We've had 2 really slow months, but I'm not freaking out because all of my accounts that you guys had me set up have money in them. And so I'm okay. They have to go in for an emergency surgery. They know they're going to be okay. They can see those numbers, the peace of mind that it gives them. It gives me chills because, when they come into the program, they are just all over the place and usually a hot mess and crying and upset in all kinds of ways. But just following a very simple system, which every beauty business owner can follow, drastically changes their outlook in so many ways. I think these are probably the biggest reasons that you need to separate that business and personal money. Now, before we get into our listener question, I think it's important that we walk through kind of how you can actually start fixing these issues inside of your beauty business. So we've got 6 steps that you can follow that will be a game changer. Step number 1, I want you to pick a clean slate day. This means pick an actual date, today, this Friday, first of the month. I don't care, but write it down. This is the date that you are going to stop creating new mess in your financials. From here forward, nothing's going to get mixed. Now, as for everything before the date that you choose, don't try to untangle all of it like in 24 hours. It's going to give you a massive headache. That's a conversation for maybe your CPA to have with you. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But Pick the date. The point of the date isn't to erase the past, it's to stop adding to the mess. Okay. Step number two is do a real 30 to 60-day look back and actually categorize what you find. So, this is something when you have time that you really want to do. Pull your last two statements from both accounts and go line by line. For every charge, ask one question. Does it belong to the business or does it belong to me personally? You're going to need to know this moving forward. And don't judge yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. You're just sorting things a little bit. You're probably going to find maybe three categories that pop up: personal stuff that came out of the business account, business stuff that came out of your personal account, and maybe subscriptions or auto payments that are sitting on the wrong card entirely. Write down the actual dollar total for each of those categories. That number is usually the moment that this stops feeling kind of abstract, because now you can see exactly how much bleed there is between the two. Step number three is fix the plumbing, not just the symptoms. I know that sounds weird, but that's something my dad taught me a long time ago. This is the step most people skip, and it's the one that actually stops the mess from rebuilding itself. So go through your saved payment methods: Amazon, your booking software, your supply vendors, every single subscription. Subscriptions are where I find the most money every single month. It's crazy. And I want you to move each business charge to the business account or business debit card. Okay. Then move every personal charge to the personal card, personal debit card, whatever it is. I also want you to take the business debit card out of your wallet if it is the one that you grab out of habit for everything. This isn't a one-time cleanup. It's just you removing the easy path to put yourself back into the mess. If you do not fix the plumbing, you're going to be back here doing this exact same exercise 4 months from now, and you're going to repeat it every single year, probably. Step number four is build your actual owner pay. So talk to your CPA about the right mechanism for how your business is legally structured. Is it going to be a payroll? Is it going to be draws? Is it going to be distributions? Whatever it is, get that handled with them. Step number five, and this is a BBA specific step. Do not skip it. For the next 60 days, stop putting new business expenses on a credit card. I'm going to go further and say stop putting any business expenses on a credit card. Once you have the account separated and all of your payments, are coming from the right places, just spend the next 60 days using only the debit card or automatic ACH withdrawal from that checking account. Do not use your credit card. That's hard for some of you. I don't care about your points. You can start racking them up later on. Don't do it. And then step number six is choose one place to track your business money and to keep it updated. You have to have a place where you can see everything. What came in, what was spent, what you paid yourself, what's left over. It can be a spreadsheet, your accounting software, a business tracking tool. I don't care. At the Beauty Biz Agency, we have a savvy tracker that is amazing for this. But for those of you that don't have access to it, just figure something out. Chandra, anything you would add to those 6 steps?
No, I mean, I think that's exactly where you should start. I think just following those steps is going to make a huge difference within that first 60 days. You have to be very disciplined and diligent and track every single thing. And that's the hardest thing for salon owners for some reason to do, but do it.
It is. Salon owners and money they just don't go hand in hand. It's just one of those things, but we can fix it. I promise you, you can fix it if you want to. Okay, before we wrap up, let's get to today's listener question. This one came from Tony in San Francisco, California. And she said, how do I know if I'm actually making a business decision or a smart business decision, or if I'm just kind of making a decision because I'm overwhelmed and I want problems off of my plate? Chandra, what do you got?
Well, I mean, I think if you're making a decision when you're overwhelmed, it's probably not going to be a good business decision, number one. And I think you have to really sit down and, just write things out or decide what is the decision is that you're trying to make, whether it's something financial, something internal with your team, or whatever that looks like. Really think about it, take the time. I don't feel like there's really any decision that needs to happen like instantly for the most part. I mean, might feel like it needs to happen instantly, but when you really take the time to actually think about it, put it down on paper, see what that's going to look like if you make that decision, then you have time to do that. And I think that's what we forget. We think in the moment and we're just like, I have to make a decision right now on this. And then half the time it is a bad decision because we didn't think through all the variables. So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think also if you're ever telling yourself, I don't care anymore, I just want to get this done, that is not something that you need to be deciding in that moment. I was the queen of that for a very, very long time, and it put me in a lot of bad positions. So just know the difference between strategy and overwhelm and make sure that you divide those and take your time. Like Chandra said, that's so freaking important. All right, guys, if you spent any part of this episode mentally scrolling through your bank account and trying to remember what you bought last Tuesday, I'm going to assume that we did our job on this episode. You're thinking, listen, this is not something that you need to feel embarrassed about at all either. We get owners sometimes that come into our program and they're just embarrassed when we start digging into financials. It's like they don't even want to send them to us because they're so embarrassed about it. Don't do that. It happens to everybody. It's just something that you need to start dealing with because the way that things are going, those transactions, they're never going to sort themselves out while you continue avoiding them. That's not going to happen. We gave you 6 steps. You know where to begin. And now all you have to do is follow through instead of putting it back on the list of things that you swear you're going to handle next month and never touch. If this episode brought up bigger questions about your profit, about your pay, or what the heck is actually happening with the money inside of your beauty business, that is exactly what we help people with at the Beauty Biz Agency. So head over to our website, thebeautybizagency.com, grab some of our free resources, explore our coaching options, or you can book a free strategy call and salon audit with our team. If you have a spare second, please leave us a 5-star review. It really does help other salon and spa owners find the podcast. And also make sure that you're subscribed so you never miss an episode or any of the amazing stuff we have coming out at the Beauty Biz Agency. Chandra, how can our listeners stay connected?
Yeah, make sure you're following us on all social media platforms at the Beauty Biz Agency on Instagram and Facebook, and the Beauty Biz Mentors on TikTok. And shoot us any questions you have in the messages. We'd love to hear from you guys and answer those on the air.
Absolutely. That's a wrap of today's episode of the Beauty Biz Breakdown. Until next time, in the financial situationship, put your money where it actually belongs and give your business the chance to show you how well it is really doing. Now go out there, make bank, run the show, and ditch that chair. And as always, keep slaying those business goals with a whole lot of swagger. If this episode lit a fire under you, don't just walk away and let it die out. Deep down, you already know where you want your business and your life to go. And the truth is, the only thing standing between where you are and where you want to be is a real plan to get you there. That's exactly what we help you build. So if you're ready to stop trying to figure it out on your own, head to thebeautybizagency.com and book your free strategy call. That call can give you the clarity that you've been needing and a real plan to move your business forward. Because at the end of the day, the only thing standing between you and the salon business you've been dreaming about is whether or not you're willing to take the action and the steps in order to build it.